Section 2.4 is talking about converting between units. And an important page that has information is page 192. 192 has all of your conversion tables. All right, so 2 pints equals 1 quart. 8 fluid ounces equals 1 cup. Rather than writing them as this equals that, we're going to write them as fractions with a numerator and denominator. But that's going to be important for solving these problems. Let's go ahead and the technique for this is to get the correct units for your answer. So using dimensional analysis means changing your units from feet to inches or from seconds to hours, whatever units your answer is looking for, that's what you want to end up with. That's what dimensional analysis basically means. Okay, so let's look at question number 1. How many miles is a 10-kilometer race? So we have 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers. So we want to multiply this by something that equals 1 so that we no longer have kilometers, but we have miles in the numerator. So I want to multiply by a fraction which has miles in the numerator and kilometers in the denominator. And when I look at my conversion, I see that right here, 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometers. So 1 mile equals 1.61 kilometer. This is just like multiplying by 1, but it's a special way of writing 1 so that my units will cancel. I have a kilometer in the numerator and a kilometer in the denominator. They are going to cancel each other. So now when I multiply across, you can think about as that over 1 if it helps you. All that's left is 10 times 1. That's going to be 10 miles is in my numerator, and 1.61 is in my denominator. So what is 10 divided by 1.61? And the answer is 6.21 miles. A 10K race is basically 6.2 or 6.21 miles. How many feet is the 10K race? Well, I know, let's go back to the beginning. I have a 10 kilometer, and I don't want kilometers, I want feet. But in my conversion, I don't have kilometers to feet conversion anywhere. But I do have kilometers to miles. So I do have a conversion of miles to kilometers. We know that 1 mile is 1.61 kilometers. Now I have, if I were to cancel these kilometers, I have miles, but I don't want miles in my answer. I want feet, which means I need to multiply by a fraction that has feet in the numerator and miles in the denominator. Why? I want this mile to go away. I'm going to cancel these miles, and all I'm going to be left with is feet. And I do have a conversion that says 5,280 feet is 1 mile. See this 10K race? I've really multiplied by 1 and multiplied by 1, but it's a special way of writing 1 so that I can get the correct units. Kilometer in numerator and denominator cancel. Miles in numerator and denominator cancel. So when we multiply across, I'm left with a 10 times 1 times 5,280. And in my denominator, I'm left with 1.61. And the only units left are feet. So what is 10 times 5,280 divided by 1.61? That is 32,795 1.03 feet. So it does take some getting used to looking at your conversion chart. The more you use it, the easier it becomes. And sometimes there's not just one conversion. Sometimes you have to use maybe 2 or even 3 unit conversions. But the process is the same here. All right, let's look at number 3. The average offensive lineman in the NFL weighs 141.3 kilograms. How many pounds is that? All right, so we have 141.3 kilograms. I don't want kilograms. I want pounds. So I look at my conversion and I see that I want pounds in the numerator and kilograms in the denominator so that my kilograms will cancel. And I see that 2.2 pounds is equal to 1 kilogram. We're multiplying these fractions. So a kilogram in the numerator and a kilogram in the denominator cancel, and I'm left with just multiply across in my numerator 141.3 times 2.2, and that's going to be pounds. And there's only a 1 in the denominator. I don't even have to write that. So 141.3 times 2.2 is 310.86 pounds. The average NFL offensive lineman weighs almost 311 pounds. Continuing on. I'm going to use some extra paper here because I can't really fit all of the calculations here. But here we have a surgical patient, and they need to have their liquids intake carefully monitored. How many milligrams? So we want to convert this to milligrams. How many milligrams of fluid did she consume? All right, so she had a ½ liter of water, a pint of milk, and 8 ounces of juice. We're going to have to convert each of those individually and then add them all up together. So first of all, let's look at the water. She drank a ½ liter of water. You could make it 1/2 if you wanted, if you prefer fractions to decimals, but she had 1 liter of water, and we want to convert to milliliters. So the way this works with your millis and centis and millis and kilos is, for instance, here's liters. I even write on mine, this is times 10, times 100, times 1,000. Think of it, centi, 100 years in a centimeter. Deci, 10 years in a decade. Milli, 1,000 years in a millennium. So this is liter times 10, liter times 100, liter times 1,000. Kilo is 1/10, 1/100th, 1/1000th. So here's your little guide to say if you're moving this way, move the decimal to the right, multiplying by 10, 100, or 1,000. If you're going this way from meter to kilometer or liter to kiloliter, move the decimal this way. But we know that, again, we're trying to find milliliters. We know that there are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. All right, so liter in the numerator and the denominator cancel, and I'm left with, let me make that equals noticeable, 0.5 times 1,000 milliliters. So how much water did she have? 500 milliliters of water. So I'm going to go here and say 500 milliliters, and that's the water. All right, the next thing she had was milk. And she had 1 pint of milk. So now we're going to have to convert 1 pint of milk. We'll put milk here. 1 pint of milk into milliliters. Well, there's no direct conversion between pint and milliliter. There is between liter and milliliter. There's no direct connection between a pint and a liter, but there is through a quart. So you have to kind of look at what do we have about pints here. You find your pints, and you have 2 pints equals 1 quart. Two pints equals 1 quart. All right, well, that's going to be able to get rid of my pints. But now I have quarts. I know that I want to get between quarts and liters. And let's see. I have right here that 1 liter is 1.06 quarts. So here I want quarts in the denominator so that they'll cancel, and liter in the numerator. So 1 liter is 1.06 quarts. So pints will cancel, quarts will cancel, and I'm left with liters. I don't want liters, I want milliliters. So we know that 1,000 milliliters equal 1 liter. And now I'll be left with the correct units. So pint in the numerator and denominator come out, quart in the numerator and denominator come out, liter in the numerator and denominator come out. And what am I left with in my numerator? 1 times 1 times 1 times 1,000 is 1,000. And in my denominator I have 2 times 1.06 times 1. So when I have 1,000 divided by 2.106, that is going to be 471.7 milliliters of milk. 471.7 milliliters, and that's the milk. Now the last thing I have to convert is 8 ounces of juice to milliliters. So here's my juice. 8 ounces. No direct conversion between milliliters. We're going to have to go through the liters. We know liters are the same as quarts. Quarts is the same as pints. Pints is the same as cups. So 8 ounces, we want ounces in the denominator. And we know that 8 ounces equals 1 cup. So now we want to have cups in the denominator. And we have that 2 cups equals 1 pint. And we've gone from pint to milliliter before, so we know it's possible. Now we want pint in the denominator. And we know that there are 2 pints in 1 quart. Now we want quart in the denominator. We know that there are 1.06 quarts in 1 liter. And now finally we want liter in the denominator. There are 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter. Ounces cancel. Cups cancel. Pints cancel. Quarts cancel. Liters cancel. And I'm left with milliliters, which is what I wanted. So let's go ahead and multiply our numerators. That's going to be 8 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1,000. And we know our units are going to be milliliters. Now let's look at our denominator. We have 8 times 2 times 2 times 1.06. And of course the 8's will cancel. When you do that calculation, you're going to get 235.9 milliliters of juice. 235.9 milliliters, and that's of the juice. So how many milliliters did she have in all? 500 plus 471.7 plus 235.9 is going to equal 1,207.9 milliliters of fluid.